thank you very much for inviting me today to chair this session, which I'm looking forward to immensely. As Frederic noted, I was involved in some of the early research around tackling match fixing on behalf of FIFPro, so it's a great pleasure for me to be able to be here today to really hear how things have developed and to gain a greater and newer insight into sort of the issues that are affecting players and players' unions. So I think we're going to kick off with a video, is that right, Frederic?
Yes.
Yep. And if someone can, if the video can be shown, please, that'll be fantastic.
In 2016, Samir Arab was a player for Malta's under-21 national team. He was on the verge of breaking into the senior team.
My career was doing very well and going in the direction I always hoped it would be going.
One day, a former teammate, who he had not seen for months, invited him to a meeting in a local cafe.
I decided to meet him. I had a free morning and I said, why not?
His former teammate offered him €3,000 to fix a European Championship qualifying match.
At that moment, I made my intentions clear that I never formed part of these type of things, and I don't have any intention to do so.
But Samir was scared of reporting the approach to football authorities.
I know that the people behind these acts are criminal gangs, mafias, and dangerous people with a criminal background.
The police soon found out and began an investigation. Samir cooperated with police, but football authorities said he should have reported his cafe meeting to them immediately. They banned him from football for 2 years.
I used to love to form part of being one of the members in the dressing room, and I had to let it all go away. I lost 2 years of my career. I lost 2 years of progress.
If Samir had had the red button app on his phone, his life could have been a lot easier. The app is a safe way to report match-fixing approaches.
By sending one message, you can protect yourself and your career. Keep the app on your phone because you never know when you might need it.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the video. It's a great pleasure to have Samir here with us today to talk a little bit more about his experiences. So Samir, perhaps you can just talk us through a little bit about how the approach to fix the games occurred. What was the sort of the way in which you were approached, and how did you feel about that at the time?
So basically, a former teammate of mine I used to play in the youths with during the under 17 stage, so it's like 4 years prior to that. In Malta we hang, all of us hang around, let's say, the same places. It's a small country, so, and basically the match fixer in this case, my former teammate, someone who I knew, and the last time I knew him was someone who loved football, asked me to meet for a coffee, and he just been out of a long relationship, so I didn't think he had any other intentions rather than getting his life back together, maybe getting some of her, let's say, old friends back. And I met him, and the under 21 national team at the time we were doing quite good. We just broke a points record, and he explained to me how it would be interesting because the betting would be higher than usual, considering we were doing great performances. We were going to play Montenegro, which we drew away with them, and basically that's how it is. I went to meet him for a coffee, and he made his approach.
So this is something that could happen to any player at any time. This sort of approach, do you think? And what was your initial reaction when you learned that, when the conversation started to turn towards sort of perhaps fixing a match?
Well, that's why I say football players can be victims too, because involuntarily you end up in such a situation. It's not something that you are looking to attract, or you portray yourself so people will approach you. Basically, he just started telling me how we were doing good and all this stuff, and then that's when he popped up like, would you be interested to fix the game? So obviously I made my intentions clear, and basically that's it. It's an easy it was maybe more easy for him to approach me, considering the fact that he already had a relationship with me from the previous past. So but that's all it takes. It takes one message, one conversation for you to actually, let's say, be in this not ideal situation, which obviously there are regulations in place, which in my case I had to do a 2 year out of football with the suspension.
Okay, well, we're going to come on to talk about reporting and how players might be able to report approaches a bit later on. But did you know at the time what it was you had to do in terms of reporting that particular approach?
Not really, but listen, I was around 20 years old, 21 years old at the time, and obviously you know that if there's a betting, you're being taught from a young age at school that if there's a betting, you report it either to a teacher or your mother. So I knew it was something bad and something you had to report. I didn't know the actual procedure in place, to whom to report, or I knew there was an integrity officer, but I don't know exactly who first you should speak to, who you should first contact. But I'll be honest with you all, I could have known the actual procedure, but obviously it was not that held me back from actually reporting.
Who did you turn to eventually to try to get support and to try to find out exactly what it was that you ought to be doing?
I can say or I cannot say, because if I tell you, listen, I spoke to this person, I may implicate them too, because they are now aware of the situation, and they can be also prosecuted, at least by the disciplinary bodies. But how I came to report, basically there was an investigation by the police, and obviously all the players in the squad were being obviously interviewed by the police inspector. Obviously I was one of the players, and I decided there and then I had two options, whether either to still stay silent or I say the truth. And I didn't want, it is something that I wanted to do, to report, and I found it to be the opportune moment to do so. And also I was also fearing that by not saying the truth, that I was actually aware, it might raise suspicions about my intentions. So I was not forced to do so. I was there in front of the police inspector, and I decided to expose what I know.
Okay, just before we move on, perhaps to look at some of the issues arising from this, what support did you get from your club, for example, around this?
I've been with the club I'm playing for 7 years. My contract expired during the suspension, and their intention was to renew immediately. So I've always found great support. The people who know you, every day you're with them, the people especially at your football club, because you train on a daily basis, and they never had their suspicions about me, and they supported me 100%. They even provided me with a very good reference letter about my discipline, which I supported in the disciplinary proceedings against me. And let's say I can considering myself lucky that I actually found a very supportive club. That together with the Malta Football Players Association and also Roy and the Fifth Pro, so these are things that keeps you going, and because you could easily throw yourself your career away and stop, but obviously when you find support from even my family, it's keeps you going and managed me to get back to football and on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you, Samir. We'll come back to you in a bit, but I think the fact that you did get some support from the football sort of organisations, I think is a really important lesson, and certainly perhaps something that may not have happened 10 years ago. So thank you very much for your insights. Okay, so perhaps we can just ask you, Roy, to say a few words. And one of the things I'd perhaps like you to address is we've heard from Samir how event manipulation can have very human impact at the level of the players. It's the players that have been sanctioned here and who perhaps have become victims almost of this procedure. From the position of FIFPro at the sort of global and regional governance levels, what would you say needs to happen at those levels in order to be able to confront this problem perhaps at a more structural level?
Well, first I always want to commend Samir for coming to these events, because he's always here to explain his story. So it's always good to hear from Samir himself, of course. But as to your question, what Samir said was also very true, right? It's an involuntary action. He finds himself in a situation he's not asked for, and now all of a sudden, because he's approached by someone else, he has an obligation to whistleblow, basically, an obligation to report, which has been imposed by UEFA throughout disciplinary regulations, which, and I come to the point of Giel, which is part of this autonomy of sports. The governing bodies can set the rules, and new players just have to comply with them. From my point of view, those rules lack legitimacy. We, as player unions, as players, do not have any right to consent to disciplinary regulations. We're not being consultant on them, etc. So, from a governance perspective, I think those disciplinary rules also need to be collectively bargained, or at the very least, have a serious seat on the table in making them work. Because now, for all these obligations to report, even in the FIFA regulations, there's a minimum of 2-year sanctions from all football-related activities. I haven't even spoken about. He wasn't even allowed to train anymore, even though he did not accept the offer did not say yes to a match fixing approach. So these rules, of course, need to have the okay from the player unions, both on domestic level as well as on international level. I think that's a governance change that needs to happen.
Okay, thanks, Roy. We also know that whilst occasionally it is like on this occasion players and former players are involved in event manipulation, we also know from research dating back from the ones we did with FIFPro many years ago, but since then, that often manipulation might be instigated by all sorts of different individuals at different levels in the football hierarchy. This can be club owners, club directors, managers. So what would you say again from a governance perspective, how UEFA, FIFA and the national associations, what do they need to do to try to make sure that that instigators at that level, their jobs made much harder?
Well, first of all, you have to make the players as least vulnerable as possible to be inclined to accept any of those offers, right? I had some slides, I will leave them out, but we know that 41% of players has experienced payment delays or non-payment at all. We know that a terrible amount of players have self-employed contracts, which for all kind of reasons, also if you're not paid, even makes you in a worse financial situation. We know that we did this research amongst 13,000 players, and the average salary of those players was actually less than $1,000 a month. So it's now very popular to speak about salary caps. What we need to speak about is salary floors. We need to have minimum requirements which are actually enforced. The FIFPro Player Protection Fund, around 1,300 players filed claims there for a total amount of 61 million US dollars, which disappeared. I mean, football often says zero tolerance towards match fixing. It's not zero tolerance, because if it's zero tolerance, you don't allow all that stuff to happen. It's 50% tolerance to match fixing. If you allow clubs to keep on non-paying and to keep on abusing players, right? So I think club owners also need to be held personally responsible for those for putting players in a position like that. And the reports of Steve would actually, of the research of Steve would actually make that more important. Of course, that you see that the majority of players are being approached by club owners. And I tell you what, like in a lot of countries, also from player unions which are here present, if you want to terminate a contract, you need to get the approval of, most of the time, non-independent bodies, dispute resolution bodies of the FA. Now, if I'm approached as a player to match fix, I probably don't want to play, by the owner, I probably don't want to play for that club anymore. But for me to make that case in front of a decision-making body, of course the club will have a right to be heard, and all of a sudden you're fighting about, do I have a just cause to terminate because I have a match-fixing offer? That's very hard to prove. So players probably go, well, this will harm my career a lot. I am being treated very differently from any other employee in any other business, because I cannot just leave my employer with a 2 months notice and play somewhere else. So the only way you can really solve that is have much more of the labor laws, the employment laws also applicable to players, and treat them as employees like we should.
Okay, thank you very much. I was going to come on to the question that you sort of started to answer, that the FIFPro Black Book, the Don't Fix It report, and the Global Employment reports have all shown that the terms and conditions of employment or working conditions in football leave a lot to be desired. What would you say are the top priorities in terms of from the players' perspective and the players' union's perspective in attempting to remedy that?
I think on a lot of jurisdictions, it's about basic labor right abuse remedies. Club licensing, as Jan Peter already said, made a huge difference in the Netherlands. They went from many cases to zero. You need to be stricter on the finance part. We have the gentleman from Romania here who already in August had 600 cases of players in one season. Those players are not, they're vulnerable, right? So how is it possible that in the football industry you can have these kind of numbers? Mirko will say something about it as well. I think the basic labor right abuse needs to be remedied, and that in the end you can only be done with stricter rules, but also with the engagement of the player unions in the national association. Because nowadays, in most FAs, it's just the clubs are being members, the clubs are in the executive body, the clubs appoint the president, etc., and the players are just there to, it's the shut up and dribble, basically saying, okay, you're here only to play football, and that's it.
Thank you very much. I'm conscious that time's starting to get away from us, and I'd like to sort of ask Mirko a couple of questions. One of the things we found in a lot of our research was how match manipulation can take different forms in different countries. I just wonder if you could just talk us through perhaps some of the examples you've seen or heard about in Serbia, and what do you think to be the priorities from the Professional Footballers Association in your country?
I'm coming from Serbia, and unfortunately we had many problems with match fixing in the last 20 years. Also, I was a professional football player, and I had very bad experience. And one of the reasons why we established the union in 2009 is we tried to find the protection for the players, because any consequences was for the clubs and for the people who was involved in the match fixing. I think it's very important to show in real life what's happen with the players. I prepared some video material. Is it possible to see what's happen in a locker room? The communication between president of club with players. What they have in their minds after the discussion with when the president of club confirmed that he fixed 3 matches, when he requests from the players to play fixed matches. I think it's very important to see how the players feel after in those situations.
Okay, so I think we've got a video.
Can we see?
We can see the video, please.
Ajde ovako, neću me zvao sad. Ajde ovako se pogledamo samo u oči, a ja ću vam sve reći tako samo, jedno po jedno. Znači, kaže neko nezadovoljstvo. Ja nisam jednog od ovih igrača doveo ovdje da se borimo za opstanak i da kupujem ja 3 utakmice. Znači, znate gdje bi bili sad da nismo mi završili utakmicu? Znači, ne bi nigdje bilo. Ajmo, sad ćemo pojedinačno. Čvane, koliko smo ti ostali para duže? Reci. Jednu platu. Ti ćeš tu platu dok imamo još jednu ratu. Nemoj da se plaši. Imamo još jednu ratu, 500.000. Vaske, koliko sam to para duže? Koliko? Pitam te koliko. Dobio si 1000 € na ruke, tako? Znaš šta si ti pokazao vas? Još se čuvaš, sad ću ti sve reći otvoreno u oči. Još se čuvaš tamo u Smederevu, igraš ko pička. Sad se isto čuvaš. Ne ulaziš u duele. Da, Vaske, aj prestani. Znači sad ja pričam.
Ne možeš ti meni prestani, ti možeš da kažeš, ali mogu ja da kažem.
Ajde, Bitango bre jedna, bitango bre jedna.
Jel te vređam ja?
Ne me vređaš.
Da me vređaš.
Nemoj da me vređaš.
Nemoj da me vređaš. Da mi kažeš bitango. Sam ja bitango, jel? Ja vređam. Ja vređam te. Nemoj da me vređaš.
Znaš kad ćeš dobiti ispisnicu? Nikad. Kad vratiš pare dobiješ ispisnicu.
A vidjet ćemo to. Vidjet ćemo to.
A šta ćemo da vidimo?
Da, neću ja dobiti.
A šta ćeš dobiti? A znaš kad ćeš dobiti ispisnicu?
Aj vidjet ćemo.
A znaš kad ćeš dobiti
Aj
ispisnicu?
vidjet ćemo. Aj vidjet ćemo.
Znaš kad ćeš dobiti ispisnicu?
Aj vidjet ćemo.
Jelani, šta tebi se duguje?
Aj vidjet ćemo.
Nekaš problem je dobiti.
Ne može.
Evo, šta se duguje? Ja sam ti, daću te na uz pameti za sve. Ti ćeš sve da ustaneš, tako? Ti ćeš sve da ustaneš. Ja ću te na uz pameti za sve. Ja ću te na uz pameti. Pa samo se sve, dobro vidjeti. Vidjeti. Znači, ne da te vidim sad u klubu. I sad ću otvareš. Neću da te vidim na ručku. Neću da te vidim na ručku, bre. Neću da te vidim na ručku, bre. Ja sam ti rekao svjetno da ga ne staneš u ekipu, ti ga staneš. Zato što ništa nije zaslužio.
U lice da mi kažeš.
U lice? Pa vidiš ti sam u lice. Ti vidiš sam u lice. Šta i kako? A ne da se čuvaš, da se ne povrediš, da bi mogo ideš na drugu stranu da igraš. Dobćeš ispicu kurac. Odmah ti.
Okay, so thank you very much for sharing that. Perhaps you could just talk us through a bit about exactly what was going on there, so that, and also from the players' union perspective, what you believe of that.
One player recorded this video 2 years ago, and in the union we decided to publish this video to show the people what's happened in real life in the locker room when the president of a club confirmed that he fixed free matches and what's happened in communication with players. And we published this video in 2019, and 2 days after we published, because we expect from FA and from prosecutors to open the case, the president of club, he find the phone number of my sister, and he called my sister, and he said, be careful, you and your family, because your brother doing something wrong. And FA, of course, did not open the case. The prosecutors also did not open the case, and they sent a message what's happened with the players if they decide to report the match fixing. In 2007, when I decided to come back to play in Serbia, because I played 6 years abroad in Czech Republic and Poland, I had a personal experience when the club director came to the locker room and he requested for the players to fix the match. And I refused. Other players was confused, and I went to the police and I report that the club director requested for the players to fix the match. The police invited 15 players, maybe more, I'm not sure, and they testified that it is true that this person asked for the players to play to fix the match, and prosecutors decided to close the case because it's not enough evidence to open the case against this person. Also, in practice, FA, they never opened any cases, only if UEFA or FIFA sent some information regarding the match fixing. But in practice, this is one of the biggest problems, and this is not also the problem for my country. It's the same situation. My colleagues can confirm in Bosnia, in North Macedonia, in Montenegro. This is one of the biggest problems because in practice, in our clubs and in our association, we have many politicians. For example, in FA executive board seat the minister from the government, and we cannot solve these problems alone. And I think it's very important to also to improve our skills in negotiation with the government, with the players, and to encourage players to speak about this. Also, in practice in 2012, when we published the Black Book, I spoke with 2 players from Serbia, and I asked to be a witness in Brussels, and they do this. We provided 2 players from Serbia, and what happened with those players after the Brussels? They never signed any contracts in Serbia, and they finished their career. Also, I'm also decided to finish my career in 2008 because I was in frustration because I do not want to play fixed matches, and I decided to finish my career and to encourage my colleagues to establish the union and to try to find a solution. And I'm very grateful FIF Pro because they always support us in all our matters. And Roy know very well how many problems we have, not only in match fixing, also with payments, with players, with independent NDRC and many other topics.
Well, thank you very much.
Also, I prepared in a few videos from because we had one referee. Do you show the video from matches? What's the happen? I can explain before you will see the video. The referee, he work only in fixed matches, and we know that information very well. And after one match, the police arrested him. He was 30 days in jail, and when he left jail, the FA appointed him to be referee control supervisor in Serbia. This is the proof that FA support match fixing, because it's very tough to explain. The FA decided to appoint the guy who was in jail because he fixed the match. And we have also official documents. This is not only my opinion, this is the official documents from the executive board that this referee will be referee controller on the first league matches.
Okay, so do we have this video, please? Okay, so
this is the only example in matches in which the players involved in match fixing. It was a match from 2 years ago in the first league, and UEFA reported FA this match, and they punished both clubs with -9 points.
Do we have any other videos? Or is that the... Yes, we've got one more, I can see nodding.
Ricky!
Okay, this is obviously a low-level match. What's going on here?
Šta je bre ovo ljudi? Šta je ovo bre stvarno? Ma ili. Da ne ulazi, da ne ulazi. Ajmo Đole! Ajmo stop! Prva! Šta? Korner, guda, guda. Od čega bre?
Okay, perhaps we can just stop the video for a second. Ask just Mirko just to perhaps commentate on what we just saw there, please.
It was a match in a youth league, under 18, and this is one of the example. This is the same referee. Yes, he is. He work only in match fixing, and this is one of the example how many matches we had in the past in fixed matches in youth league, and I can show you more than 100 videos in the last 5 years, similar videos in which you can see how many matches was fixed, and what is the consequences for the people. It's no consequences, of course.
What is the motivation behind this? Why was he fixing these matches?
Only gambling. The players in Serbia, we are very poor country to be honest, and they play for 500, 1,000 euro per month, and they did not pay on time the players. And this is the criminal organization, and they in the last season, 2020, we had, I think, more than 30% fixed matches in all leagues in Serbia.
Okay, well, thank you very much for sharing those insights.
We have also one video more. Can we see only it's short?
Okay, one more please.
To promenilo da vidimo šta će Šimura učiniti. Dva puta je bio u poziciji da savlada protivničkog golmana i 11 terac. Spartak. Sačekat ću, nadam se, i ponovljeni snimak. Da vidimo. Da li je tu bilo kontakta, nije li ga bilo, kako god.
Okay, so
the same referee always.
And he is now the.
Now he received the decision from the court, the first decision of 50 months, but the FA never decided regarding his position in football. They never banned him to work in football. As I said before, he was appointed by the FA after the scandals to be a referee controller.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mirko. And I think what it's shown is really sort of the institutional level that can be very problematic when it comes to event manipulation. Finally, one of the things that we've talked about a little bit today is the process through which players might be able to report approaches to match fixing and how they can do that in a safe, secure and confidential way. I know dating back from before the Don't Fix It project, there was the development, I think, of the Red Button app that was being developed, I think, initially in Finland, which I now know has been developed a great deal since then. So, Frederique, would you like to talk a little bit about the Red Button app and where you are with that now, please?
Yeah, thank you, Andy. And first of all, the Red Button app is a reporting tool to report any suspicious things you see as a player on match fixing. And it's a safe tool. You can report anonymously. You can leave your contact details if you want. And we will show shortly in a video clip how it's working, because we use the materials for the player unions to show to the players. But it started in 2011 in Finland. So we're grateful for our Finnish colleagues who developed this app. And it's a really very safe app where there is no traces to be found in the phone of a player, because you download it on your phone, you activate the app with a randomly given code. So that's only one code per player. And then you activate the app, and then you can multiple times report any approach on match fixing. Over the years, we added new features, but when 2018 it was that FIFPro took the decision to introduce this app and implement it for all our player unions worldwide. We had a closer look and to see, well, can we make it more state-of-the-art, so to say. And now this app has also the possibility that players can upload information, for example, screenshots of approaches by WhatsApp or by social media, or that they add some audio recording. So it's got different features now, and it's got education material in it. So it looks very basic, but it's very effective, and it's a safe reporting tool for players, because I think hearing from the stories, either you're under threats, you're afraid, you don't know to whom to turn to, or you don't know to what level or to which governing body you have to report to, and this app has it all. And I think Samir made a good remark about saying, like, if you're going to report, you want to report to somebody you trust. And from our past researches, we learned that players trust the union the most as an independent organization who are there to protect their rights and to help them. So I think it's now good to just have a quick look at the video clip, because that explains really the working of the app, and then we can talk a bit further.
Okay, thank you very much.
In the beautiful world of professional football, people come together, share their passion, and watch their idols on the field. Unfortunately, there is also a darker side. The act of playing to predetermine results before a game has happened is called match fixing. Match fixing is a serious issue. It is an organized crime. Getting exposed to match fixing is something that can happen to any player at any time, at every level of football. Anyone can approach you to fix a match, even someone you know. In some countries, as many as 34% of active players have been approached to fix a match. Wherever you are, the risk exists. On average, 1 out of 10 players worldwide will be approached at some point during their career. Players often don't know where to go or who they need to contact to report suspicious activity. Do you know where to go? Is it to your coach? Your federation? The police? Research tells us you trust the union the most. This is why we have the Red Button app. The Red Button app offers a safe environment where you can report anonymously. You can choose to leave your contact details in the report. Filed reports are untraceable to your phone, meaning you are protected and can sleep easy. Reports lead to action. Actions make change. Let us protect you. Your union, a FIFPro member.
Okay, thank you very much. So, how many unions have now adopted the Red Button app, Frederic?
I think we're over 50. We are over 50 now, and we had quite a challenge because of COVID. It was really hard for the players to be in front of the players in the dressing rooms, because our player unions, they visit at least twice a year the clubs and meet with the players. And that is the really the right moment to introduce the Red Button app and to install it together and activate it. But because of COVID, that was a real challenge and not possible. And so now, during COVID, we introduced it. We run workshops to explain it to the unions. And now they are just really activating it. Where it is possible, it's been activated. And from those... Well, we are over 60 countries now, but around 50 we are ready.
Okay, and is there any evidence of the app being used by players?
Yes, there's been evidence, because what's not part of this video clip and didn't mention, well, once a report is sent, it will go to a so-called case handler, and that could be anyone. It could be an independent lawyer, it could be a national platform. It could be the lawyer of the union. It could be federation when the relation is really good and it's a trustful governing body, so to say. And it could go also to FIFPro, to our legal department. And well, since we introduced it, there are reports coming in, so we know it's working, and so it's really helping the players.
Okay, thank you very much.